Hi and welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about facial fat loss, which is something that affects many of us as we are maturing. And this loss of facial fat can make us look older, tired, unhealthy even. I've actually talked about my own experience with trying to replace some of this lost facial fat. I had a treatment called Sculptra, which I made several videos on. I will link them all down below. And pretty soon I will make an updated video on my experience with Sculptra because so many of you have asked. I'm also currently trying a cream which promises to restore facial fat. Fingers crossed on that one. I will keep you posted. But in today's video, we are talking to a good friend of mine, Bev Sanderson, who has been on this channel several times. And Bev has some very promising news regarding facial fat loss and the possibility to restore it naturally. So without further ado, let's talk to Bev. Hello, Bev. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Claudia. Thank you so much for having me back.
Now, Bev, loss of facial fat is a hot topic right now, one that I'm particularly interested in as well. And I understand that Maysama's research partners at the Nelson Mandela Institute in South Africa have discovered a unique property of Rooibos that could potentially help protect subcutaneous fat. Is that correct?
That's right, yes.
Well, I'm really interested to hear about this. But before we dive into it, some of my viewers might not be familiar with what Rooibos is. So can you tell us briefly what Rooibos is and also what are the implications of facial fat loss?
Of course. So Rooibos is a healing herb from South Africa. I think a lot of your viewers will probably be more familiar with it as redbush tea. So I've drunk Rooibos or redbush tea for many years, whether it's the Rooibos or the green Rooibos tea. It's a potent antioxidant, so it's fantastic for our bodies as well as our skin health. You asked me about fat loss in the face and the implications of that. It's interesting because I think a lot of the time we do talk about, loss of structure in the face, and generally talk about it in relation to loss of collagen. What isn't spoken about very often is the loss of fat pads in the face, but that can definitely change our morphology. So it's a subcutaneous adipose tissue that changes, and that can lead to skin sagging. So we get, loss of fat under the eyes, loss of fat pads here, and then it tends to redistribute itself so that we have more fat in the lower jaw. So in an ideal world, we would like to slow down or even reverse that process. So skin sagging is a drastic change in skin morphology. So we know it's not just the superficial layers, but it's from much deeper. It affects the subcutaneous layers, so the subcutaneous fat. So if we look at subcutaneous adipose tissue, for it to be healthy, it needs to be able to regenerate itself. And that's a process called adipogenesis, effectively producing new fat cells from fat stem cells. And the Nelson Mandela Institute, they've studied this aging fat stem cell population, that's called pre-adipocytes, and looked at the effect of Rooibos to help preserve these cells. So keeping fat stem cells and their powerhouses, the mitochondria, healthy could potentially protect adipose tissue and help slow down or reverse the signs of aging. Rooibos is best known for its antioxidant potential, but the studies that our research partners at the NMI have done show that Rooibos can help protect and repair these fat stem cells. So that's the part that's very exciting and could have implications for aging.
That is exciting. Do we know how this works?
Well, to a certain extent we do, but I think it's probably worth having a little refresher in cell biology first. So we know that in healthy cells, ATP or energy is produced by mitochondrial respiration. And that process uses glucose as a food source. But then as cells age, we find that the rate of growth starts to decline, that the ATP starts to be depleted in the cell. Mitochondrial health declines, and that affects cell signaling pathways. And the mitochondria become inefficient, so it forces the cell to use an alternative energy generation pathway called glycolysis. And glycolysis produces lactate. So if cells have a high level of lactate, we know that that's representative of an unhealthy cell, effectively. So the studies that they did at the Nelson Mandela Institute showed that treating these aged fat stem cells with Rooibos helped to put their function back. So they then the rate of growth and reproduction increased, and the energy levels were restored in the cell. The glucose consumption also went up, so it indicates again that mitochondrial respiration is working efficiently rather than using this alternative pathway of glycolysis. And the lactate levels in the cell also went down, which again confirms that it's working as it should do, and the mitochondria are doing their job. So effectively, the Rooibos is helping the mitochondria to do their job because it's regulating glucose uptake. And we know that Rooibos has this function of regulating glucose consumption because it's used in the pharmaceutical industry already. Aspalathin enriched green Rooibos extract is used to treat diabetes because it helps to regulate the uptake of glucose in the blood. So again, that reinforces how Rooibos works and how it has this novel function of glucose regulation, which can help repair aging fat stem cells.
Wow, that is fascinating. Before we go any further, tell me really quickly, please, what is Aspalathin enriched Rooibos?
Sure. Okay, so Aspalathin is a flavonoid in Rooibos. It's actually unique to Rooibos. So I think with green tea, people might be familiar with EGCG, which is epigallate, catechin gallate. No, that's quite right. Epigallocatechin gallate. And Aspalathin is like that. It's the main flavonoid which is responsible for its antioxidant potential.
So let me see if I got this all right. So it is the mitochondria that governs the health of fat stem cells. And Rooibos can help restore the health of the mitochondria. Therefore, it can help fat stem cells to grow and reproduce. Is that correct?
That's certainly what the studies are implying. Yeah, that's what they're indicating. We see that Rooibos has an effect on glucose uptake. We know that mitochondria need glucose for glucose respiration. And we also see from the studies that the fat stem cells, the aged fat stem cells, start to grow and reproduce more quickly.
Now tell us really quickly, Bev, how were these studies done?
So these studies are what we call in vitro studies. So they're done in a lab under controlled conditions. So different to on human skin, but using human pre-adipocytes, so aged fat stem cells. So these fat stem cells have been treated in a certain way that then causes mitochondrial dysfunction. So they represent aged fat stem cells.
So I used to have a friend who would always tell me, at a certain age, you have to decide between your butt and your face, which never made any sense to me until I aged. But if we are losing facial fat, couldn't we just eat our way to healthier, plumper skin?
If only it was that simple. But unfortunately, fat seems to have a habit of depositing itself where we don't want it rather than where we do want it. So it's not that easy. But whether adipose tissue is healthy or not depends very much on the size of the cells. So what we want is an abundance of small adipose cells rather than the larger mature adipose cells. The reason being is that adipose tissue is what we call an endocrine tissue. So it secretes cytokines. Those are just peptides that have a signaling function. And with a small adipose tissue, it secretes adiponectin, so that cytokine. And we know that adiponectin has a positive influence on dermal fibroblasts because it increases the amount of collagen and elastin and higher hyaluronan that is produced. So what we want is those small cells. Unfortunately, if we just eat more and the underlying fat stem cells are not healthy, what happens is it forces the more mature fat cells to take on more fat. And there's a limit, there's a threshold as to how much fat they can store. And if they exceed that threshold, then they become dysfunctional. And they secrete palmitic acid in this instance. And that has the opposite effect. That starts then to inhibit elastin gene expression, which has a negative impact on the amount of elastin in our skin and affects dermal condition in that way. So ideally, we want to keep that underlying base of stem fat cells healthy, that then helps to produce more small fat stem cells, and then allows those more mature fat cells to stay healthy, because they're not forced to take on more and more fat. So it just keeps everything in homeostasis and healthy, and representative of a younger, healthier skin.
So eating our way to plumper skin is obviously not an option.
No.
Aside from us maturing, are there any other conditions which could affect these fat stem cells?
Yes, I mean, menopause certainly does, and weight gain generally. So I think this is where the NMI research is really interesting, because it's focused on this fat stem cell component of adipose tissue. And we know now that if you have this aging fat stem cell population, that affects the health of adipose tissue generally. So if we can slow down and potentially reverse those signs of aging through using Rooibos, that has shown to protect and repair these fat stem cells, it will then help the more mature fat stem cells to maintain their function and work as they should do, so they're not taking on excess fat and then redistributing fat in the face. So it's about Rooibos protecting this fat stem cell population that then slows down or reverses the signs of aging, and helps to maintain not just healthy adipose tissue, but healthy dermal function in general. So keep in mind that these are in vitro studies, so studies done in a laboratory under controlled conditions. They're not clinical trials, but nonetheless, what I love in vitro studies, because it's at the cutting edge of science. It gives us information that we don't always get when we're treating the skin, these dermatological studies. So it is very interesting, but it is different to claims testing. This is information that we have about Rooibos and the properties of Rooibos, but we can't say this serum will increase fat in your face. That's not possible. It's not claims testing. But talking of claims testing, of course, we have done claims testing on my serum for another aspect, which is using it with LED. And I know we're going to talk about that in one of your upcoming videos, Claire.
We are, and I'm also very excited about that one. That is also quite fascinating.
Yes.
Now, Bev, first of all, thank you so much for sharing this research with us. It is fascinating, and I will be bathing in Rooibos. and as you said, your serum, Maysama serum, contains Rooibos, and it contains the Aspalathin enriched Rooibos you talked about.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
I understand you have a new product coming on the market. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I have. I've just launched my new Maysama Green Rooibos Gel Balm Cleanser. I hope you're going to love it, Claudia. I do. I've been using it for a while now. And let me just show you. So I have my lovely little bamboo pads here as well, Maysama branded. And if I get one of these out, I can show you. Little pocket there. And there's my cleanser. So it's a beautiful Rooibos infused gel balm cleanser. I would normally wet this bamboo pad and then just use this on my face. I can use it around my eyes because it's so super gentle. So there's no surfactants in this. It's soap free. It's also free from added fragrance, essential oils, no drying alcohols. And it's just a beautiful, hydrating, moisturizing, conditioning cleanser. So I think you're going to love it. It's fortified with oat beta glucan, so it's hugely moisturizing, and also organic oat milk and arginine. So again, skin conditioning for that reason. You've got jojoba oil in there, which is the closest to sebum in our skin. So again, anybody that has very sensitive skin like me is highly unlikely to react to this, because it's so similar to our own skin sebum. And the jojoba oil is great because it does the heavy lifting for you. So you can remove a full face of makeup with this, and it's perfect. So I hope you're going to love it. I know.
I can't wait. I know mine is in the mail. I can't wait to receive it, and I will let you know. I know I will love it. So, Bev, this has been fascinating. Like I said, I want to bathe in Rooibos now, hearing this information. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I think that's probably it for today. I'm excited to come back to you and talk to you about our LED results using the serum with LED. If you're looking to buy the serum right now, we are literally sold out. So bear with me, because we'll be back in stock very, very soon, within a couple of weeks. I'm not sure when your video is going out, Claudia, but we should be back in stock by the 19th of October worldwide.
Okay. Well, like I said, I can't wait to try your cleanser, and I can't wait to have you back on the channel and to talk about Rooibos and LED. Thank you so much for being here, Bev, and for sharing this incredible information.
Thank you for having me.
That's okay. That's okay.